Hey, welcome to the podcast. Doing something a little different today.
Hey guys, so today we are sharing an interview with Kevin and Sam Sorbo.
You might know Kevin from God Is Not Dead. He was the professor in that great movie, and he's done 50 movies. So
yeah, I think Hercules was the one he was most known for.
And where they met, married 25 years.
Yeah, so we're excited to be interviewing with them and sharing their resources with you. Sam is actually a home education advocate. They have raised their kiddos, and they are, I was just really encouraged by how like-minded they seem to be.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What a fun interview, and hearing insights and also the dynamics of how he's had his career and how they made sure they stayed a strong family unit. And in addition to being canceled in Hollywood for being conservative in his values and professing his convictions, and how he made that happen anyway. So
yeah, so it's a really encouraging interview to see other people who are standing up for Christ and for truth, standing against the woke culture, and not just going along to get along, but instead being willing to put their careers on the line. And so they've pivoted. Obviously, they're more independent now, and it's exciting to hear their story. So come join us today.
Hey, welcome everybody to the podcast. We're so delighted to have some special guests on the show today, Kevin and Sam Sorbo, and we're going to dive in. They have a fascinating life, so we're going to dive into that, but welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you guys definitely have an interesting background. We want to dive into that. A couple of things that I thought were fascinating is, actors and met that way, and Christian family, raising them up in the right ways. It's pretty cool.
It's a little bit unique. So we want to dive into this with you guys. Were you both believers when you got married or when you met on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, definitely.
Yes. In fact, that was one of the qualities that we were both looking for.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't looking, but I was.
Yes.
That's great.
He was a confirmed bachelor when I met him.
Well, the show Hercules, all the way to God's Not Dead, married, all in between, raising your children, homeschooling. These are all things our audience would care deeply about. Interesting movies like God's Not Dead and others. And it's just really a fascinating path. Married 25 years. And, so did, one of the things I think would be interesting to start with, and I know you have a new movie out too, and you can talk about that a little bit, but what is, obviously being married, doing movies and so forth, and then homeschooling. I think a question people would have is, did Sam kind of pull back on her career for a while, or how did that happen?
Well, so right before we got married, Kevin almost died, and he ended up in intensive care. And I was forced to make a choice between my career and a husband and potential family. And so I made that choice. So I stepped away from my career even before I had kids. And then I went back to my career, or I tried to, when I had 3 little ones, and my smallest made it very clear that she did not want me working. She wanted me around. And once I realized that, I said, oh, okay, so it's another binary choice. You can't have it all, which is part of my message to young women. Don't think that you can have it all, because then you'll get nothing. And that's just the way it works. You have to commit to something in order to make it valuable. And so I committed. In fact, when we got married, we made the commitment to each other that we wouldn't be apart for more than 2 weeks at any stretch of time. And I think that has really stood us in good stead, because we just kept applying that rule. There were plenty of opportunities for him to be gone for longer stretches of time, but I just packed up the kids and went with him, or joined him where he was, and then maybe left before he came home. And we really worked on that.
Well, I think it's part of our, my world, doing a lot of independent movies, such as God's Not Dead. And, she would just travel with the kids.
Yeah,
they would be on the set, and they loved it. I shot a movie called Soul Surfer, and they pretty much loved that. They would be done with all their work by noon, so they could get down to the beach.
Well, that was in Hawaii. So when I found out he was going to Hawaii, and he's like, are you going to come, or do you want me to come back somehow? And I'm like, no, we'll make the sacrifice. We will go to Hawaii to see you.
Good choice.
That's awesome. I mean,
and then the homeschooling was kind of an offshoot of that. I mean, I put the kids in school. We put the kids in school. We found a great little public school. And
Ventura County, out of LA County, because Ventura County,
it was supposed to be,
supposed to be much better than LA.
Yeah.
It's better. Still not great.
better crap. Like it's better smelling crap, but it's still crap, And so after second grade, I took the kids out, and then we very quickly realized what a huge blessing that was, because in Hawaii, my son was supposed to do homework that the school sent with me, and it was all busy work and it was garbage. And that's when I started really toying with the idea of, I can make better worksheets than this. This is really garbage. It's making learning boring and annoying. And that's not what I wanted for my son. I wanted him to be encouraged and curious and, engaged. And so that really started there. And then just traveling with Kevin really just reinforced all of that.
Well, Angie's like mine. I've been homeschooling the whole time, all the kids, and
20 years.
Obviously, I help here and there, but she's really doing the work, and so that's amazing. I mean,
you mean she's getting to do the work? She's privileged, and you're missing out.
That's right. That's right.
He does step in a lot more now because our boys are getting older, and we're trying to really instill in them more life skills as well, because I saw this in your little workbook that you guys sent me, and I loved it because it gets parents thinking about what education really is. And that's one of the things we talk to parents about a lot in the parenting podcast, is that you guys need to think out of the box.
Yes.
In another 10 to 20 years, like Generation Alpha, for example, is going to, like 65% of their jobs are not jobs that exist today. So to think out of the box, how do you raise your kids to be, irreplaceable? They can't be replaced by AI. They need to be able to be people that are needed within society, but for God's glory, right?
Well, and also, that they should be resilient. So because you're not going to be able to crack that nut for them. You can't imagine what thing that they're going to be able to do that's not replaceable. But if you make them resilient, they will become irreplaceable.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. Resiliency is huge in this economy. Yeah, we can't see the future, but really laying a foundation of, we were just talking this morning, actually, oration, the ability to influence with your words is such a powerful thing. So important. I mean, even more important than writing. Unfortunately, AI is doing a lot of writing, but there will be a demand, and I encourage the kids, there will always be a demand for what's human. In fact, I think more so down the road, because people are going to be starving for what's real as AI goes on. But what's a tip you have? Homeschooling is not easy. It is a delight, and it's a wonderful thing. The fruit is incredible, obviously. But what's a tip for our listeners just on, how to overcome the challenges and stay the course and be encouraged?
So this might sound really crass or something, but my new phrase is, if homeschooling's hard, you're doing it wrong. And the reason I say that is because kids are curious. And so the idea is simply stoke that curiosity, feed it, try to steer it, but don't try to steer it too much, because you'll kill it. And it is a fragile thing. And that's what happens in schools, is the curiosity is killed. A child goes into school full of questions, right? 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, why, what for, how come, how many, when? And then they get to school, and the first thing they're taught is sit down and shut up. You need permission to ask a question. You may not just ask a question. And so my take on that is, do the opposite of that, and then worry about the I guess the resiliency or the marketability of your child, secondary to the godliness of your child, right? You are raising adults. You're not raising children. The school system raises children so that we graduate young people who can't hold down jobs, much less careers, right? And so you're raising adults. You raise worthwhile adults, they will have resiliency, and and you can rely that that's God's plan. But we grow up because we all went to school, right?
Right.
So we all learned that, life is a zero-sum game, which it's not. God knows it's not, right? He fed 5,000 from 2 fishes and 5 loaves of bread. Amen. So he doesn't work on a zero-sum scale, but we do, because we think in this economy, there's only a limited amount of anything. And that's not true. And we have proof of that in our nation, America, creating the greatest prosperity for the world over from the poorest. We were the poorest of the poor. We started out with nothing. And that's what happened. And so if you go back to that and God's plan, I think you'll be okay. But if you try to force academics on your child, like the school does, it's a failing proposition. And that's what makes it hard.
And people get intimidated thinking about homeschooling. And so you're saying that the system that you went through in public schools from kindergarten through 12th grade did not prepare you enough to teach a first grader? What does that say about our public education system to begin with? And I think one of the blessings, certainly, of COVID is that people finally woke up and looked how horrible not only our public schools are, but how tyrannical our school boards are. And they said, the heck with this. Now 2 million more families are now homeschooling. Thank God for that.
Yes. Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Well, for time, there's several things we want to cover.
Sure.
I think shift gears. Something really interesting to me is just your increasing boldness that must have happened in your career. You were in Hollywood doing movies, and then you were vilified in a way, it sounds like. I'd like to hear the story of, when did you become more bold? Why? And then what happened? And how did you shift to doing movies in a different way?
Well, I need to get a T-shirt that says Hollywood loves me. So
what happened to
I
you?
was, I just spoke the truth. And the Hollywood, truth is kryptonite to Hollywood. It's kryptonite to our government. And I look at what's going on now in our U.S. government. It's just, I shake my head. But if I look back at that time, and Sam warned me and a couple other actors, high-profile actors that are conservative Christian guys, they warned me, say, hey, you better tone it down. I said, tone what down? I'm not posting anything weird or hateful. I'm just saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if we got rid of public schools or something like that? Apparently that was like a horrible thing to say. In Hollywood, eventually my manager and agent said we can't work with it anymore. So I'm really, I think, the first victim of cancel culture before it became a term. Because this is like a dozen years ago. So we formed sorbostudios.com. I said, I want to do movies that made me want to be an actor in the first place. Movies that Hollywood used to do. Movies that had the good guy winning. They didn't celebrate the bad guy. Movies that had hope and love and laughter and faith and redemption, things that used to be there. Now every movie now is just a $300 million video game, which is, Spider-Man's great. It's entertaining. But half that movie is just visual effects. It's just a cartoon you're watching. And I just said, I want to do movies that have some soul to it and depth to it and characters that people can relate to, or people know or want to be like or want to avoid being like. And, hopefully have lessons in their real life, not this constant over the top with visual effects.
I love it. I think sometimes there's people out there that are fearful a little bit. It's like they're not being fully who they are they are in Christ, sharing what they really believe in, because they know there's a quick, challenge to that and persecution to that. And what's maybe your message to them that are in that spot of feeling stifled? And what's your message to that?
Fear is government's favorite weapon. We saw it in full display during COVID. And went around the whole
enemy.
world.
Let's say it's the enemy.
It's the enemy. It's
favorite weapon.
And the only person who's supposed to fear is God. That's in the Bible. So the reality is, I think people, the internet's a wild west. There's a lot of evil within the internet. There's a lot of, people are losing the ability to socialize with each other. To me, the fight is on with not only government, but in politics, but with what Hollywood's putting out there. There's a culture war that we're fighting. I'm fighting with $3 million movies. They're fighting with $300 million movies at $100 million advertising budget. People say all the time to me, make more movies like God's Not Dead and What If? And I'm going, we're making them, but how do we get them out there unless you support? We have one coming out the end of this month that people need to see. It's a wonderful true story called Miracle in East Texas. And go to sorbostudios.com. You can sign up for it right now. We only get 2 days. That's all we could afford through Fathom. We get 2 days. If we put butts in those seats, we'll get more days. This is a wonderful PG-rated true story.
Family-friendly
It's got
comedy.
family, it's got comedy, it's got faith, it's got redemption, and it's got hope in it. And we need hope more than anything in our world right now.
Well, I think a message I want everybody to hear is we have to put our dollars to support things if we want more of something. And that was what Kevin just shared. I think that is so important with you, with everybody that's trying to lean in and proclaim Christ and put something good out there, an alternate option for people. Well, how does that keep happening? You have to support it. You have to go spend money. You have to show up.
And stop being afraid. Stop being afraid. You're going to get canceled anyway. Okay, so just fight back. Don't be afraid. We need lions to wake up. The sheep are going to be the sheep, but we need people to wake up. And when over 50% of Christians don't vote, I realize we got a voter problem in our country, let alone people not voting. Voter fraud is real. And I'm amazed that both sides don't get rid of mail-in voting, but that's a different issue we can talk about another day.
100% agree.
I'll just say it's a character issue. And you might be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. If people fear, right? The Bible says, fear the Lord. And it says many times, do not be afraid, but we do fear. But here's the antidote to that: courage and
Yes.
character. And when you start standing for truth, it becomes infectious. It's hard, it's a challenge, and it's worth it. And if it weren't a challenge, it wouldn't be worth it. So you actually ought to welcome the opportunity to stand for truth.
Mhm.
And when you have the opportunity, do it and see other people fall in line behind you.
I think one of my favorite poems, very popular poem by Robert Frost, is "The Road Less Traveled." I know you know it, know of it. I think Jesus was probably the original guy walking the road less traveled. And I know you are. I know we are. We need to turn the road less traveled into a super highway. We need people not to be afraid and make that thing a 12-lane highway going one way, and that's straight up to Jesus. So we need people to fight and not be afraid. I've got a book that's out right now. Just came out. Okay.
I'm so glad you shared
Yeah.
Brave
that.
books.
Yeah.
Brave books. People
That's
need
awesome.
to jump on board. This is a great book.
Yeah.
This is a book about letting boys be boys. Let boys become men, become strong father figures. It's a wonderful little story about a little lion cub. His sister gets hurt in the woods. He's got only one flower that can cure her before she dies. He knows he has no time to run back home to mom and dad, but everything his father taught him about this one flower that will save her life. He's got to find his courage. He's got to fight the fear. He's got to do the blockades that are thrown at him, and he's got to save his little sister's life, and he does it. And I'm getting attacked by the alphabet crowd. They don't even read the book. They just disagree with anything and everything I say. This is not anti anything. This is pro child. That's what it is. Let kids be kids.
Well, we love our friends at Brave Books, and I'm so
Awesome.
glad you did
Yeah.
one on masculinity, and
Yeah.
it's so important.
Embrace masculinity.
Embrace it. It's under attack. It's God-given. It's a good thing. And
Yep.
I agree with you and the things you're saying out there. I saw some of your stories and
Yeah.
news clips on the book. And I just 100%, I have a Resolute Man podcast, and it's all about that same lane. So everybody
Go to
get that.
bravebooks.com. Go to bravebooks.com. Get a free copy, autographed copy by me. Join them for 1 year, at least 1 year, but you're going to stay with them longer than that. You get a new book every month. It's great for
They are
kids.
Well,
worth
I can say we've got probably 20 of those books because of
Awesome.
our Brave Books, and my kids love it. We have
Yeah.
a map with the stickers, and every
Yep.
time
Yep.
we look, the little boys get out. Can I put? No, it's my turn to play with stickers. It's just awesome. There's just been so many lessons that are taught where, sometimes in life you don't experience the struggle or the trial, but today so many people are living in a really busy lifestyle to where
Yeah.
they don't recognize when the person that's next door is going through the trial to be able to reach out to them and to walk through that trial, to carry that burden with them. So when you have good books or even good movies, right? We were talking about that for a while, that can help your kids to put themselves in other people's shoes and experience the persecution, the different things. It becomes the opportunity that you can then have that conversation with them, share stories from your personal childhood and your life. It just triggers things. I look at the Bible and how many times God used narratives of people's lives to teach stories to his people, to give us lessons, learn from their mistakes. Don't follow that example. Do follow this example, right? And for us to be able to open up our lives transparently and to share with our kids, like modeling that's huge. So your story was interesting to me regarding just even standing up in persecution and creating your own studio set, right? Like, do you find that your kids, having watched you guys go through that, are following your example? They're rising up and encouraged. Share some examples of how they're interested in maybe in the same thing. Are they interested in the same industry?
We should be the cabinet for Washington, D.C. My wife and I and my kids. We could solve the problems in America. Trust me.
Yeah, both of the boys are going into acting and messaging into the culture. And they are both and actually all three of my kids are fervent in the Bible and spreading the word, and it's fabulous to see. It's just remarkable to me. I think what they did that really surprised me, I didn't grow up a Christian, and so I didn't initially think that I was really qualified to teach them Christianity, so to speak. But we just started studying our Bible. And so when I tell people that, I say, you should study your Bibles. And if you don't know how to study the Bible, there's a really good book that will show you how to study the Bible.
What's it called?
It's called The Bible.
Okay.
Amen. Yeah.
So,
Hey,
so by
I have the same. Yeah.
by doing that, what happened was over time, they realized the Bible is the answer key. It's the cheat sheet to life. It's the guidebook. And it's
Yes.
true. And so now
Wow.
they just love to study the Bible because they feel like they get so much out of it. And that's not even something that I could have taught them because I didn't really get it until
Well,
they showed it to me.
And everything she just said that's great about the Bible is exactly the reason the government took the Bible out of the schools back in the 1960s.
And so if you have, I mean, we should change the Department of Education. We should change the name to the Department of Schooling because I don't see how you can purport to educate people and ignore the most foundational book known to humanity, regardless of if you're religious or not. The Bible is the basis for our entire culture. It's the basis. So you can't say you're educating somebody and ignoring the basis. It's ridiculous. It's
The
absurd.
Constitution is basically written off what the Bible's rules were, and they don't want people to teach the Constitution or civics anymore in schools
Yeah.
because, God forbid, we let kids know it's called "we the people," not "we the government." But they've taken that away.
I mean,
from
we
us.
really ought to be careful there. You're
Yeah.
raising such an incredibly astute point, and we're allowing the government to teach our children, and the government's interest is, trust me, the government's, not the kids.
Nope.
So get your kids out of school and worry
I'm-
about the rest later. Just pull them out
Yeah.
now.
I agree. I know there's a question that people want to know is, yes, we can't save our kids. God does that, but your children love the Bible, and because you can only love the Bible if you're seeking God, if you're interested, and therefore at some point down the road have a relationship with God. So what's some tips to parents on how you cultivated and pointed them towards God?
Family
Oh
discipleship.
my gosh. This is the simplest question. It seems so complicated, but it's very simple. And the Bible answers this question. These are my words. Teach them to your children when you wake and when you lie down to sleep, when you walk by the by and when you are sitting in your homes. Teach my words to your children. It's that simple. Read the Bible with your kids every day. Have your kids read the Bible out loud. You read the Bible out loud. But do funny voices. Act it out. Read the Bible. Honestly, it's not more complicated than that.
I'm going to throw this out there because there's a lot of stuff going on, obviously, around the world, certainly in Israel. Sam and I do a trip every year to Israel. We are still hoping and praying we're able to do it in May. People go to sorboisraeltrip.com. They can join us. I realize now you're probably looking at, we're not going to go there now with what's going on. Of course not. We're hoping by May, this is still not going on, but
Yeah.
at least get educated about the trip, walking in the footsteps of Jesus with us. It's called sorboisraeltrip.com. I'm just putting it out there. And obviously, if it's still going on,
No, and I'll tell you, we've done 2 tours with our kids,
yeah.
and you get so
Bring-
much out
We
of
take groups of 80 people, just
Yeah.
so you know.
but
Okay.
the kids come along, and they get so much out of, and I do, the group does, actually seeing the places and actually feeling the history. It's really remarkable. The Bible is true.
Mhm.
We even as Christians, having gone
History
to
books,
government schools, we have a little bit of a preset, a little bit of a default of, oh, it's a collection of fairy tales. Maybe
Mhm.
some of it's true, but not all of it's true. So maybe you need a gut check. Do you really believe the Bible? Because if you really believe the Bible and you read the Bible, you'll see that the Bible never says find a good school for your children. It doesn't, and we
It's
tend not to trust the
over-delegation.
Bible
Mhm.
because we went to school and the school taught us, no, trust us. We're the authority.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's amazing how like-minded we are. We talk about these things, 266 episodes on the Courageous Parenting podcast. It's so wonderful because people need to hear this from more people. And I'm
Yes.
so
Yes.
thankful that you're expressing these things because there needs to be a
Mhm.
spreading, the highway you're talking about, of more and more parents diligently, intentionally raising their children. And I just love, Sam, how you're simplifying it because it is that simple.
Yeah,
You're
right.
right on. Absolutely. Read the Bible. But it becomes complex if we ourselves aren't in love with God and reading the Bible. How can you
Well, but
possibly?
there's the solution to that is actually quite simple again. And by the way, get yourself an annotated Bible, like a MacArthur Bible or something like that, because then you can look up answers to little questions that you have about words and stuff as you go. It's actually exciting reading. It's not bad reading. It's not boring. But
Yeah.
I will say, going to school K through 12, we are taught 4 basic lessons. Don't ask. This is a barrier to entry. Don't try because failure's bad. Don't think. Just regurgitate what the teacher tells you. And the 4th one is don't read. Teacher read it. Teacher will tell you what's in the book. You take notes in the classroom, and then you do your problem set and see if you pass the test, right? And so the don't read has permeated our culture. So now we are Christians who attend church, and the pastor has read the excerpt for us, and we don't read the Bibles. And I think, honestly, if revival is going to come in the nation, it's going to come through the home church. Start reading the Bible with your kids, read the Bible with your friends, do Bible studies. That's really, I think, the only way that this is going to happen, because the pastors enjoy the people relying on them or whatever. My son went and visited a church, and I said, well, how was it? And he said, Mom, it's a good church for people who want to say they're Christian.
So we're about out of time, and I want to respect your time, but I have to ask. So you mentioned home church. We love home church. Is that what you guys do for church?
Actually, well, we do church with our family, and we're often doing it online because we travel a lot.
Yeah.
And so it just happens that way. We have yet to find a church in our area. That's why he was visiting a new church that really appeals to us. It is hard to find strong, solid foundation.
Yep. And unfortunately, there are more and more woke pastors out there as well. And and when I do a lot of speaking event, I say, you know what, you guys, you work for God, you don't work for government. And I get mixed reactions from that. But I don't care. It's like when I tell people, I say, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be here tonight. I've said your wrong pronouns. Once again, I don't care. So.
Well, we so appreciate your boldness. You're willing to say what needs to be said and should be said. And so we so appreciate being on the podcast. What are some final words from you about the movie coming up, or what you want to share?
Sorbo Studios. What's that?
I was just going to say, or what you're most excited about right now.
Well, I'm excited about the movies that we're doing. So sorbostudios.com, sorbostudios.com. You can check out the movie coming out the end of this month, Hercules, Texas. I've got 2 documentaries coming out later next year. One, I spent 3 weeks in Israel. I was the real Indiana Jones. We were through archaeological digs. We watched and traveled with the flow of the Ark of the Covenant. And the other one is the follow-up to the #1 documentary on Amazon 2 years ago, Before the Wrath. It's about the second coming. I highly recommend it, Before the Wrath. It was #1 on Amazon for 5 months. And the follow-up is about the Last Supper coming out this Easter, and it's called Eating with the Enemy.
So, and then I'll just add to that. If you go to sorbostudios.com, sign up for the emails so that we can stay in touch. As you know, Kevin was canceled off of Facebook a couple of years back and off LinkedIn.
Zuckerberg's a wuss. He hates the truth.
And so really the best way to stay in touch and to keep up on all of the things that we're doing is at sorbostudios.com. If you want any information about the homeschooling, my homeschooling is over there. This book that you referred to, it's actually a series of videos online. It's a 15 video series. And so if you go to Sorbo Studios and click on my link, you'll find all of the homeschool resources that I've created, my podcast.
You can get our autographed movies. You can get autographed books. You can get all kinds of Christmas things coming up. Here's one that was in theaters for 4 months. Let There Be Light. Sam wrote it. I directed it. She stars in it with me. My boys are in it. Lasted 4 months in theaters. It's a wonderful movie. Came out back in 2019, and it's a wonderful Christmas movie.
Oh,
awesome.
So much good stuff. We so appreciate what you're doing. Coming on the Courageous Parenting Podcast. And just thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us.
Appreciate your time. We'll meet again Easter. We'll talk about eating with the enemy.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Take care. God bless.
All right.
All right.